Hey, it's Jim with Cloud Bedrock and developer of Cribops and the Cribops-CLI. Today, we're going to show you the new features of the Cribops-CLI, which is a simple tool that installs on both Mac, Windows, and Linux that allows you to quickly and easily install N8N locally on your computer and now in your own AWS cloud. I'm the founder of Cloud Bedrock and developer of Cribops. Before that, I had two successful exits with software I developed, one as the chief technology officer behind a global emergency response platform that powered 24/7 life and death messaging, which sold to Garmin in an 8-figure acquisition. As you might imagine, when you build a global life and limb SOS message handling system, failure is not an option in a world where everything fails all the time. In summary, I drink coffee, I know things, and I've built stuff that has actually seen the light of day. Follow me, and I just might be able to help you do the same. We're going to cover the tool. The CLI tool is basically a simple way to install N8N on your local computer. I'll put a link in the comments below on the initial feature, which is basically what you're seeing here to install N8N on Docker on your local machine with one command. So I type that command in. It creates a Docker Compose file. It creates a Cloudflare tunnel, which then with just one command of Docker Compose up, it will launch Docker. It will launch Postgres along with a modification of Postgres called PG Vector that lets you do RAG workflows locally on your machine. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. We're here to talk today about the new AWS feature. The problem with many of the demos on how to install N8N in the cloud is that they're just effectively doing that. They're installing a single instance of N8N in the cloud as a single point of failure, meaning that if anything goes wrong, N8N is down. So you'll have a single point of failure, no fault tolerance, meaning that if there is a fault, and everything fails all the time, so you have to account for these things, nothing's going to come and save your N8N node instance other than you manually, one, noticing that it's down, two, going in and stopping it, restarting it, or whatever it is you have to do. Oftentimes, they don't have backups with these services, and there's no access typically to the database that you could use for other things like Postgres memory or enabling PG Vector and using Postgres as a vector store, things like that, right? So while it's simple, yes, it is not terribly useful in a production use case. So the Cribops-CLI for Amazon will do a number of things when you run it, but it will generate infrastructure for you, your infrastructure, not somebody else's. And it will determine, one, how your domain name is configured for use with the service, and it will prompt you based on what it detects and suggest you options on what to do. It can auto import records. It can create records in Cloudflare. It can do a lot of things. We do recommend that you use Amazon's Route 53, but you can start without it and make your way along. We also create an Amazon load balancer that's to handle load balancing the traffic as it goes through. We create one N8N node in a Docker container in Amazon ECS, Elastic Container Service. It's a orchestration service that manages the tasks of starting and stopping and scaling Docker containers on your behalf. So we provision one in an availability zone, which is like a data center in AWS. And then also we provision an elastic file system because, as you may or may not know, N8N writes to a file system, to a local file system. It needs to, in order to store things like credentials and other files that it needs. And so because of that, if there was ever a failure where, let's say, we started this instance and some kind of failure happened in Amazon's availability zone 1, ECS will detect that and relaunch your instance in one of the other availability zones. And the file system, because it's essentially the same file system across all these data centers, N8N will come back up and it will be none the wiser that anything happened, and it will take off where it left off. We also provision a relational database service for you, the Amazon Aurora version. It's a little bit more pricey, but it's far more performant and has features to allow you to grow and to scale more easily. We have two options for you when you do this. You can just have one database that has all of these features, automatic backups, point-in-time recovery. But then if you want to have a fault-tolerant pair for scenarios where if the database server were to die or it needs a minor patch update during the time that the patch is happening, if you didn't have a failover, that would be an outage to the application, whereas with the failover option, it's about a 20-second failover time, and typically applications keep running with no issue during that failure. That database is actually not exposed to the public internet, unlike many other database as a service providers that only use credentials to protect the database. This is private, so the only thing that can talk to it are the applications. But because of that, we create a bastion host for you that you can then securely connect to via the Cribops-CLI. You'll create a tunnel connection to it, and then it will also automatically open it up in Table Plus, which is a desktop GUI management tool for databases. But if you don't have that one, that's no problem. It also gives you instructions on how to open it in other tools, including the free PG admin tool that effectively gives you the same thing. We use Table Plus because it has a nice feature to open in Table Plus with a single click. It's super handy. The data is encrypted at rest, meaning if Amazon were to take an SSD that's in one of these storage clusters for your RDS and throw it in the bin, if someone were to dig that out, it's encrypted. They couldn't do anything with it. That also includes the file system. So the original feature that we had, which we improved by adding the Cloudflare tunnel, was a Docker Compose file generator that starts N8N, has Postgres available to you, a custom version of Postgres with pgvector pre-installed, and the tools necessary to create credentials in N8N so that you can use Postgres for other purposes besides just managing N8N, which is very powerful because you can use it for memory, you can use it for CRM tables, you can do whatever it is you want with it, and without having to have a third-party database as a service vendor like Supabase or Neon, because you already have a database. It's yours. Do with it what you'd like. Okay, we're going to get started with Cribops-CLI deploying to Amazon. So I'm going to put this in West 2. We're going to say the name is demo.getmorecustomers.com. It is detected that domain, getmorecustomers.com, is already set up inside of my Amazon. So it will automatically create records like the records to confirm the SSL certificate, the records to map to the load balancer so that domain works. It's going to give you an estimate of the cost. And again, that's just an estimate. It's an estimate based on on-demand pricing, which is the most expensive pricing, but doesn't include, overages for data. It doesn't include, CloudWatch logs if you were to keep letting them pile up, et cetera. So you'll have to, keep an eye on that. But I'm going to go ahead and say yes to proceed with the deployment. And this does take some time because it's basically going to create an entire Amazon infrastructure for you. It's going to create the virtual cloud. It's going to create a router. It's going to create load balancers and security groups and file systems and all of the things. And it's going to do it in an order that makes sense so that, one thing that if it depends on another, it will wait until the first thing is done before it continues. So this is a perfect time where you might want to go off and get a cup of coffee or two. It'll take about 10 minutes, but when it's done, it's your infrastructure that you now have access to in your Amazon account. We're utilizing CloudFormation behind the scenes, which pretty much every tool does. So there's kind of no secrets as far as how we do this. We're just generating. We're putting an easy button to your Amazon infrastructure and making it easy to not only create it, but also manage it. So you'll be able to do things like scale the number of N8N nodes that are running in there, start, stop, uh, delete it all when you're done. Super handy if you're a agency and you're trying to, do production level testing and you just want to spin something up really quick. Just pick a region, throw it in there, test it, and when you're done, you can delete it. You only are charged for what you use with Amazon, but again, you are charged for what you use with an Amazon, so do keep an eye on that. Okay, now it's done, and it has created a domain name record for the new N8N site. And now you can go in as usual and log into the system and create your API key. Okay, I've gone ahead and logged in and created my API key off screen. So the next thing you'll want to do is use the Cribops-CLI AWS DB. If you hit -H, it'll give you the options for the DB subcommand, database subcommand. So here I want to do the setup credentials. And if you do an -H on that one, it'll show you that what it wants is the URL and the N8N API key. So I'm going to do that off screen, and then I'll show you what the results are. Okay, I've completed pasting in my API key from the demo N8N node that we have up and running. And in so doing, it has gone out and it has created credentials for multiple databases that it's also created as part of this initial setup credentials. So it's created the Cribops memory, Cribops CRM, Cribops RAG, as well as added the functionality to enable PG Vector on the Cribops RAG database. And then with that API key from N8N, it's made a call out and created discrete credentials for each of those. So then if I bring that here, so here I am logged into that freshly minted N8N node in AWS, and you'll see that there is connections for each of these. And those are now able to be leveraged in any of your workflows. So it's your database server, your database. You can do with it what you'd like. So beyond that, you also have the ability to connect to this database and this database server and any of the databases via the command line that then brings up your choice of graphical user interface that you'd like, or you can even use CLI. But there is a built-in functionality within Cribops-CLI. And if you just do at any one of the command line levels, you can do the -H to get help for that level. So here you see I just went through the setup credentials, but now I can do a connect. And then you can also do a -H for that and get the attributes for that. So in my case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to specify a region because I'm working in a region that's not my default. I'm going to specify a port, and that port is your port on your machine. So say, for example, you're doing development and you already have Postgres running, then you don't want it to use the default Postgres because they're going to conflict. So the default is 5432. So I have a Postgres, so I'm going to override that. And then I'm also going to specify auto open. And what that will do is automatically open after it tunnels and successfully connects. It'll open up Table Plus on my local machine here to the database in question, right? And then finally, if you don't have Table Plus or you prefer to use some other tool, then the show password will actually display the plain text password so that you're able to get that and paste it into your client that you'd like, right? So I'm going to go ahead and do region US West 2, which is where this stack is currently running. I'm going to use a port of 5432, or actually to 5431, and then I'm going to do an auto open. And if all things are happy and configured, what should happen is it should create a tunnel. There goes the tunnel. It's displaying all the information for the other databases if you wanted, and there you go. So I am now connected to the N8N database by default, but I can come up here and specify any of the other tables. Are not terribly interesting because there's nothing in them at the moment, like memory, for example. There's no tables there, right? But when you're using table or Postgres in N8N for memory, it'll auto-create the tables it needs there. So that's not a problem. And then the CRM is for your own, playground. And obviously you can create as many databases as you want and, expand upon that. But we just put a handful of them together to, let you go crazy with it, right? And remember, RAG has the Postgres PG vector capability built into it. So it will be able to be used as a vector database for your RAG workflows. Yeah, so that's it in a nutshell. That is the new features that we've added to enable you to take N8N and create a database that you can use for other purposes as quick as possible and as convenient as possible. If you'd like to learn more about what we're doing with Cribops as a service, as well as the Cribops-CLI, which is the free tool we've demonstrated here, or things that are related to that, I'd highly recommend you join our Skool community. That is skool.com/Cribops. I'll put a link in the comments below.